I am Doug Friedman.
I am Bonnie Ray.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown, a podcast geared especially for you on the Patreon, all about you, because that's what everything's about. It's not about us at all, ever, except right now. It's about you, Bonnie. Welcome.
Thank you.
I got to work on my intros.
I'm just sitting here with a big smile on my face.
Aw.
Because of your intros, not because of you.
Oh.
That's part of it. Yeah.
But wait. No.
Mm.
So you're laughing at me or with me? Or
Both.
For me? Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Laughter's laughter. That's
it is.
On a serious note, I say this a lot to people, and I struggled with this for a little bit. The idea of false hope. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as false hope. Hope is hope. It's a good feeling. When you have hope, it's great. And you're like,
right.
Well, false hope. I don't want to get myself excited about something that's not going to happen. Like, but the excitement's real. Why not be excited?
And it's fun. You're just taking
Right?
away the joy of the hope in that moment, thinking it's going to perhaps prevent you from feeling the discomfort or pain if it doesn't work out. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
What do you have hope about right now?
Right now, that we will be free to move about the country at some point, and other countries. And, okay, I'll tell you exactly what I have hope about. You ready for this?
Okay. Yes.
And I need help with this because I want to have more hope than I actually have. When I say I have hope, I have a very small amount.
Okay.
Okay. Long way to go, but it's going to be worth it.
Okay.
There's this game called Wordle. Do you know this game?
You know me enough to know I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, listeners, if you don't already know, Google has this thing where literally if you Google Wordle, Wordle, a game will pop up. Somebody in the UK came up with this game where you try to guess a 5-letter word, and you enter the word in, it'll tell you how many letters right or how many letters wrong. And it's cool. And you have 6 tries to guess the word. And you would be surprised at how difficult or easy it is sometimes to guess the right word. It's pretty cool. And a lot of people are posting on social media their results.
Okay.
I'm being serious. This is not the joke.
I've seen it, but I didn't know what it was. Okay.
See,
mm-hmm. There's
that's
blocks,
what I'm saying.
like green or yellow or something. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. See, you do know what this is.
And that is giving you hope.
Yeah. No. See that's a Wordle right there. But then when you get to the actual, I'm showing Bonnie what it looks like on my phone, a picture of the actual game. But yeah, those blocks, it'll say like Wordle, game number 210, 3 out of 6. I mean, you got it on your 3rd out of 6 tries.
Right. And
that's the 211th Wordle or whatever it was. You get 1 a day on Google. Really cool.
Okay.
Now, I love that you're nodding along. Is this what you look like in session? You're nodding along, looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Is this ever going to end?
Yep.
Eventually it will. We've got an hour. So I posted a Wordle block thing that you saw with the orange and green.
Sure.
On my Facebook, and somebody commented, a friend of mine, and in high school we used to play games on the top floor of her house. Yeah, top floor. I said it. She had 3 floors to her house. The 3rd floor was like the game room. And, we're like, yeah, we should totally get together and play some games. Let's play spades. Let's play hearts. Let's play rummy. Let's do it. Like, great. She's like, yeah, as soon as it's safe to do so in the future. Like, great. When is that going to be? When is it going to be safe to do things like that without wearing a mask, without worrying?
Right.
You and I, we were live 2 weeks ago. We're remote right now.
Right.
I want to have hope that we're going to be live and going to be having game nights and dinner parties and things like that again.
And we can sit in a circle and play Wordle? What?
No, Wordle was
that was your entryway.
Exactly. That was my entryway to get to the point.
I've played words with friends with you, Doug. I will never play a word game with you ever again. It's horrifying.
Yeah. What about Rummy Cube?
No, you're not invited for game night because I always win game night, especially if it's Scrabble or involving words. But I have a feeling that you would destroy me based off of words with friends, unless you're a cheater. because I feel like you can cheat on those games.
Well, Words with Friends has cheating in it if you know
Right.
Scrabble rules, because you can
Right.
try words until they accept it.
Right.
In Scrabble, you can't. In Scrabble, you try a word, and if it's not a real word, you lose your turn.
Yep.
In
Yep.
Words with Friends, you keep plugging it in, and it's, for me, it was great because I could just pick, letter patterns that I think like, oh, this looks like a high scoring word that would fit here. Oh, nope,
Right.
it's not a real word. Okay, let's try again.
Right.
So yeah, that's not fair. But I feel like a game night where you always win, it would be wonderful to have me there so that I could witness you actually winning.
It would. I actually am very into crosswords. It's what I live for. I live for coffee in the morning and a crossword at night. And I actually play against my mom, who's in her mid 70s.
Wait, you play against?
I play against her. So she gets the newspaper, she scans it, emails it to me, I print it. And then at the
Wow.
same time, we say ready, set, go, and we do a crossword puzzle.
Whoa.
Now, my mom has this old and faulty narrative that she's not like smart enough, even though that is so not true. She kicks my ass maybe 80% of the time.
Wow.
And so it's so fun for me because one, I love crossword puzzles and I like the competition, a little healthy, loving competition. We'll help each other out if we get stuck. But to have my mom kick my ass is very humbling. So maybe I will invite you to game night. But I hear you. Just to be able to go to something like game night without, do we need to take tests? Are we safe? Do we sit outside? It's just, it's exhausting.
Right. It is. And it makes me want to revisit something with you. I remember once we were talking about crosswords. I want to go there again.
Do not therapize me. Let's put a pin in this and I'll take you back.
Let's put a pin in it and I will take the pin out right now. I loved crosswords. My dad loved crosswords. And I noticed two things. One is the LA Times was easier than the New York Times.
100% easier.
And each day of the week, it got progressively harder until you got to the Sunday, which was really hard, right? So which crossword do you do with your mom?
We do the LA Times. LA Times.
Do you do it like just the Sunday one and you use Sundays and one a week, or you do daily?
I don't look into it closely. She just sends them to me, but I usually get them almost every day. So I think we do 7 days a week. Not that we're always doing it, but I collect them and she'll be like, did you get my emails?
Oh,
yeah,
it's sweet.
It's pretty sweet. I have done the New York. It is much harder. The LA I know I'm going to finish it. Like I might get stuck and sometimes be like, okay, I know that I can complete easy and pretty quick. New York Times, oof.
Yeah, and it's a state of mind that if you get into, I've noticed when I've got my crossword chops up, like you're just thinking in those terms, right?
Yes.
The New York Times, LA Times thing. I think maybe there's a thing where LA just in general makes you feel smart. New York is out there to make you feel dumb.
Yep. I agree 100%.
So you guys are going to hear a session with me and Drew now. I think the only thing to know about this one is that you will hear some noise in the background. It is his dog gnawing on a bone. Like that just happens sometimes. And every now and then he'll do it like right by the mic. I have said to Drew, like, hey, your dog's getting a little close. Let's move. But most of the time, just like, nah, you guys are fine with it. It's a dog gnawing a bone.
I didn't notice that. And I think that's because I'm used to that sound, but we'll see if your listeners do.
We'll see. And we'll see you. Well, probably never, but we'll talk to you in just a few minutes. Noticing your growth over a year, and it's been almost 2 years since we started.
Yeah.
It's fun looking back. Like you're different. I see it, and we talk about it in terms of different jobs, different relationships, but you're in your skin every day.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It feels good. And I feel different, mindset wise and just kind of like my day to day.
And what's really cool for me is your growth. Like you'll come in and say things like, Yeah, I was just trying to go with it, be a little more Green Beret about this. And it's just your way of thinking now and how you've taken it on and how you've done it and getting through things like getting paid, having your boundaries, what that looks like. It's cool because there's rewind 2 years ago when you were like, I'm really bad at finances. I don't know how to organize my thoughts. I just spew.
I think I'm so more aware of the organization and finances and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to practice it. It was my big 2-6. And so that was like the one where it's like the insurance and phone bills and cars and just everything.
That's right. Yeah, you're technically on your own for a lot of that now.
Yeah. So like fully kind of like on my own. It feels no different than it was like a week ago, but I think it's a lot more real.
It's almost like 26. Okay, the training wheels are off. Mm-hmm. And Dad's long since let go of the bicycle seat,
Right, yeah.
But you can still like pedal into the garage for a minute, and recharge and then go back out. Mm-hmm. It's not like you have to be on your own and do it all and you can't have any support. Part of being an adult and being on your own is knowing how to use your support.
Right. I think this birthday, last couple of weeks for me, have done just kind of that. I didn't tell my mom about the whole girlfriend situation until like 2 weeks ago because I didn't necessarily want her to know. And I thought, when we talked about it, I figured that she would put every other girl in the future in that same category. So I kind of was trying to navigate how to talk to her about it. But I think with that scenario, like specifically, it really showed me that I was able to lean on the people I wanted to lean on when I wanted to lean on them. And still majority lean on myself in my new 26-year-old life of kind of being on my own, and kind of like relying on myself wholeheartedly. And I think I came to the realization the other day that like I'm fully capable of doing this. I just kind of haven't been pushed to do it yet. I think the mom and dad kind of being that safety net for my whole life. But I think now it's just a little bit different in the sense of like mindset of I got this. I can do this. Whereas a year ago, like no fucking way.
What's given you, what's helped with that difference? I don't know if it's confidence or just willing to take a risk or being more comfortable with the unknown. Like, what is it? How does that happen?
Well, I think like going back to like elementary school, right? I was a big group project kind of guy because I was always afraid of either being really good at something or really bad at something. And so in a group setting, I would kind of like blend in and not pass the blame, good or bad, but kind of share it. Whereas now I think I'm getting a lot more comfortable in the solo projects and taking the blame, good or bad, and kind of experiencing what I want life to be and not what I think the people around me want it to be. I think the solo aspect of a lot of the last year has been amazing in the sense of like I feel like I'm lead role in my movie again.
Yeah.
Versus, kind of playing a supporting actor.
Absolutely. And I think as you're describing this, I think what I hear is you kind of walking through something where the way you're describing being in groups is similar to how you talked about being a people pleaser, just wanting everything to be okay. And I don't want to stand out as a super success or a super failure, or even a little success or a little failure. There's safety in the group, safety in numbers. And how you're describing is like, wait, I want the experience for myself. I don't want to just be in the shadows and keep everybody else happy. I want to experience the happiness or the sadness, whatever it might be, or both, and have that experience. I like that. And I believe that because you're having a more full experience of your own life, and why you can take what happened with girlfriend and look at that and look at how that could have devastated you and is still devastating and a bummer for sure. But it doesn't have to be everything and all consuming. And there's a version of you that would have told your mom what happened. So you could pretty much let her lick your wounds. You might even fly back home, give me a hug. Like, I want to feel loved. I want to be loved on. I want to know I'm okay. And going back to something we've used, that threefold Buddhist thing. Is it honest? Is it kind? Is it necessary? I could be honest with her and I can be kind, but it's not necessary. I don't have to tell her what happened. And even when I do, I don't need to tell her all the details.
Yeah. My car situation plays into that now because financially, like I took a huge hit and I got fucked on this deal. And, this is one of those like perfect scenarios where I would call mom and dad and be like, yo, like, help me. Right. Whereas now I'm like, no, like I'm going to sink or float on this one, and I'm going to do that on my own. And I believe in myself, and I believe in kind of where I'm going and what I'm doing right now, that I won't need to rely on them. It'll come and it'll kind of work itself out.
Looking at what kind of support I want or need from them. We've talked about financial support. We've talked about emotional support. We talk about it in terms of, a pit stop. Like sometimes I just need change the tires, fuel me up, and let me get back out there. But don't tell me how to drive. Don't get in the car with me. Don't slide me over to the passenger seat and you drive. Like I might need a pit stop. And here's what I need from it. And being able to go to them in that way, like I see you more and more being able to recognize that, because it's your journey in the car, your journey in life. Yeah, I might need a little support. I'll sink or swim on my own, sure. But if I'm sinking, then I'm going to grab onto something so I don't fully sink and drown.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. I wanted to test myself, real life test myself, in where I was at. And kind of going off like the 2 years, of being like, okay, like I want to see where Drew's at. So I was talking to an old girlfriend. And so we linked up and got lunch.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about that, because going into that, I was like, I want to see emotionally where I'm at and where I'm triggered, and kind of like, how do I fit into the world again? Because there's still a lot of comfort there. Like that was an easy test, if that makes sense. And so it was cool. Great lunch. Didn't feel the need to text her right away after. It wasn't like, oh my God, we're going to get back together. This is great.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that was a good lunch. Like for me. And so it was a good opportunity to kind of like see where I was at emotionally, and do I want to jump into another relationship? Because that would have been the perfect opportunity for me to feel that.
Right. That old version. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think I showed up super authentic, and it wasn't like a plea for pity. It was more of a, this is what I went through, and this is kind of what's happening. And I'm in a really good spot right now.
So what did that do for you? What was kind of like your takeaway from that?
I think the big pat on my back is understanding my emotional boundaries now. And everything that we have talked about over the last 2 years has been very relationship driven. But I really wanted to see that I could walk into a situation where I know I've been hurt and be okay. And I think that was like my first practice for kind of what my mom looks like. I guess I'm trying to rationalize twofolds here. One, I wanted to see her. I haven't seen her in a really long time, and I just wanted to go talk to her and see her, and it was a good opportunity to. But like genuinely, I wanted to test myself and not like if I came out of that and was like madly in love with her all over again and needed to see her again like that weekend. And it was a good kind of like mile marker for me that I can kind of put that in the past and let that be there and not dwell on it.
There's something about this where you're looking at, on the one hand, I wanted to just see her and connect, and it was cool. And for that piece, it's not uncommon after a breakup or whatever, after a relationship ends, that people go back to an ex. We've talked about it in terms of mile markers. Like, let me look at that mile marker back there because I'm at this one over here. Am I in the same place? Do I want to go back? Or have I grown? Can I see my growth? What you wanted to get, I think, I'm hearing, is I want her to see my growth. It's sort of like being able to share some of what I'm doing now.
I think at the heart of that for me, that would have wanted to show her that I'm in a good spot. So, hey, come back now. It was more like, I know I'm in a good spot.
Nice.
I don't need to show her that.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. And I love when you push back. It's not about wanting her back at all. It's about, like you said, it's sort of like a test. Like, can I walk into this and can I be okay? I know I'm good with who I am and what I'm doing and all that, but maybe am I going to be okay walking into a situation where sometimes I would slip into that codependence or I would need that reassurance? Am I really okay? Yeah, I am. Okay, cool. And like you said, it's almost prep for dealing with mom right now and how she's relapsing and going through what she's going through. And okay, can I walk into that and be okay? Yeah. All right. It's testing it out. You weren't after like, does old girlfriend want me back? You weren't even after, have I evolved enough since then? Like, I know the answers to those. I don't want her back.
Well, and like my big thing with all of that too is like, who really cares if like she sees it or not? What's her opinion on my growth matter to me? Like at the end of the day, like what my self-confidence and the self is becoming is a lot more of like, I'm proud of what I'm doing. I'm enjoying my day to day. I like it. So if you fit into that, cool. If not, no worries.
And you said it right there, self-confidence. That's actually like, I'm good with who I am.
Yeah, well, and then to kind of add on to this, I've been waiting to give girlfriend her stuff back. I think looking back on it, going to see old girlfriend, having that kind of lunch now allowed me to not feel like I needed to run back to girlfriend when I saw her. Because I knew there was going to be feelings and I knew that she's really good at talking in that way. And so I had a friend take me down. So I had the wingman there. So I knew I couldn't get trapped in any way. Mm-hmm. And so I texted her kind of like right before that. I was like, hey, can I get my watch back? And she was like, oh, so we're not going to talk? And I was like, about like, what do we have to talk about? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And so I was like, I'll pull up in like 15 minutes. Like, if you want to talk, like, sure, like I'll be there. But like, I don't have really much to say. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. If you need help moving your stuff inside, like I can help you. Like, I'm not just trying to like dump it and leave. I hop out of the car, I go in for the hug, like, hey, good to see you. Like, what's up? How you been? And she was like, no, I can't. And I was like, oh God, this is what we're doing. And so like, it was one of those scenarios where she pulled every card in the book to try and get me to stay and talk. For me, I feel like if I didn't have that with old girlfriend, I couldn't have walked through that because there's a lot of like resolution in that conversation that I had with old girlfriend. And not between me and her, but I think between me and myself. And so that allowed me to now not feel like I wasn't upset, but I wasn't happy, but I wasn't like, okay, I'm glad she's out of my life. So like, I'm kind of like walking through resolving stuff and practicing what's new.
I like hearing this from you. I mean, you're telling me what you're not feeling. You're telling me what you are feeling. You're having the experience. You're seeing, okay, I tested it out with old girlfriend and I had resolution there. Cool. I feel more resolved going into seeing how my most recent ex is going to act, and she can act however she wants. Yeah, she's going to pull out all the hits. Okay. And I brought my wingman, but I'm also good with myself. What's different about you now than when I've heard in the past is I wasn't just trying to be a nice guy or please her or make sure she's okay or take care of her because that would take care of me. I know what will take care of me. And I'm good. I'll be here and I'm not going to feel pulled. I've got my boundary now. Sure, you want help carrying this inside? Cool. And even like coming in for the hug where you were doing that, like, cool, I got my bubble. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely is more resolve to you about this and about being your own person. Now I know who I am and I see who she is. Okay, that's not going to happen. But I can still see her as her and I can be me. Cool. That actually sounds pretty healthy.
Yeah. And it felt good. And yeah, I feel resolved. I don't feel like there's anything hanging there. I don't feel like I've left anything or.
There's a version of you, maybe it's a more little Drew version that used to exist. And I'm wondering what you would say to him because he would have gone down there probably without friend, would have not only carried the box in, would have gone for the hug. And when she said, no, I can't. Oh, why not? I know, me too. And it would have gone a lot differently. So thinking about that version of you, what would you say to him?
Go to therapy. I don't know. Like there's not much I could say. You know what I mean?
Well, go to therapy. Why?
I think it's little Drew. It's such an emotional charge behind so much of his rationale that a lot of it was jaded by the situation or by previous events to where now somewhat, I'm not that great at it, but I can somewhat separate emotion and rational thinking in these moments now. In that moment where she pulled back, I was like, okay, that's your feeling, not mine. I'm here. What you need, I got you. But like, don't push that boundary. You know what I mean? I didn't go there expecting her to hug me. It was just genuinely showing up. genuinely I showed up and I was vulnerable and I was like, yeah, I'm hurting too, but I'm here and I'm not going to just leave, but like, I can't spend time with you or talk to you like this anymore. It's figuring out what's right for me too, you know, because a lot of people have been like, fuck that bitch, leave her, like back to the streets, turn her away and like, don't ever talk to her again. Right. Whereas like for me, that's not what I want to do. Little Drew. Be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do? All right, cool. Like, fuck you then. So I think navigating my true feelings and how I wanted to feel them was huge.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's the difference between having fifth gear or slamming into reverse.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot more gears now.
Yeah. And I think navigating to knowing when I want to switch gears is another big thing for me, but there's a time and place for it. I'm not dropping everything now to meet somebody in their gear. If I'm in 3 and they're in 4 and it's kind of a stretch, you know, okay, like let's do it. Right. But if I'm in reverse and you're in 6, like I can't do that anymore.
Right. Just doesn't work. It relates to a lot of the interactions you have. It relates to coworker, relates to mom.
That's just one of those situations where like, I don't even know how to describe what's going on with him because it's such a weird predicament I just found myself in with him because, you know, it was family business and it's like constant, I got you, don't worry about it. And so I think that's another thing I'm really proud of as far as like boundary wise. I do need the money, but I'm also, again, not going from 6 to reverse to ruin everything else I have going on for this. Because I realize now that I do believe in what I'm doing and it's like it's coming and it's there. Something I'm really happy about. And it has nothing to do with me or like stuff I can control. And so I'm like, okay, I can't control that. Like I'm not more putting my eggs in that basket now, but I'm focused there. Because I can't control what's going on. It's out of my hands.
Yeah. And you can still be concerned. Like, yeah, I was supposed to get paid. There's still 2 other invoices. Like, yeah, I would like to get paid. But right now I'm sticking that in neutral and I'm in 3rd gear over here. There's something about this that to me reminds me of you showing up as you authentically. What do I have to offer? Me, authentically me, not trying to please them or be a certain way and I hear you more and more becoming that, like, if something's not cool, you're not just going to say like, oh yeah, it's cool. No problem. It's fine. No, it's not.
Yeah. And I think I'm navigating how to have that conversation too. We're supposed to go to Palm Springs. I was supposed to go for my birthday. It was a rush trip because my boys were flying from Seattle. And so we pushed it to do a 420 trip in Palm Springs. And then my homeboy was like, oh, my mom's birthday. And so he pushed it back to the end of April. And I was like, guys, listen, like, I'm trying to take a vacation here. You guys keep pushing it. I'm going to go. If you want to come, you can meet me. You know, like, please come. I would enjoy that. Yeah. But I need a vacation.
There you go. Look at that smile too. Look at that smile when you're saying that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now telling me about this?
I think twofold story. I think one, empowering. I think it's great. I think it's a lot of confidence. And I think that I'm enjoying what I'm doing, which feels really good. The second fold of that is where I'm trying to navigate now of how to not be emotionally charged in those conversations. Cause like I was still bummed. I was like, fuck off, guys. Like this is so annoying. So I was still frustrated with it, but I made the right outcome decision. I just didn't quite get there the way I wanted to.
Yeah, that's being human. And that's where it's the and, not the but. I was frustrated and we got there. It's recognizing that emotion is there. Pretending you don't have it, ignoring it, avoiding it, compartmentalizing it. If you just kind of go, yeah, this is really frustrating. I'm trying to have a vacation. Here's what I need to do. Here's what I'm doing. Then you acknowledge it and you can move forward. You don't have to dwell on it. Especially with Adam's mom, it wasn't like, I am so disappointed. This is so frustrating. And it's triggering because it reminds me of every time my mom said something and went back on her word. And I just can't handle this right now. It's not all that. And you're laughing, right? Because you're like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You would do that internally, though.
For sure. Yeah. And maybe a little externally. Yeah. I mean, with my mom, too, you know, I think I'm getting a better grip on the realization of my trust issues. Again, I'm becoming more aware of it as I've been navigating kind of like this cutoff situation going on. And so like the thing that kind of tripped me out, and this happened yesterday, they had paid for me to get a tattoo because I probably couldn't have got that tattoo at that moment without them. So amazing. Thank you. I was like, hey, you guys have already gotten me my thing. Like, please don't get me anything else. Like, please, let's leave it at this. This is amazing. Like, thank you. Right. And so my mom mentioned to me the other day, she was like, hey, we're not cutting you off. We're going to give you a little something to kind of send you off. Like, it's your 26. Like, this is kind of you coming into the world. Like, we got you. Right. Mm-hmm. And growing up, kind of watching my brother grow up a year ahead of me. Right. There's a couple instances where he would get a big chunk of money, whether it was graduating high school, going to college, getting out of the officer school. You know, it was always kind of like coming into his own situation. Yeah. And I had never gotten that. And so I was like, oh shit, this is mine, like coming into the world. Like I finally have something where I've accomplished it to a certain degree and I'm on my way. My biggest favorite all-time gifts that I get consistently are cards, because that's something I can look back on and open it and be like, I love this. Like, yeah, this is it. Right. And so yesterday she next dated it to me. So I was like, okay, kind of weird for my mom to next day, like a birthday card. There's probably some good money in there. Like, awesome. Right. And so I'm like, and I was getting overexcited and I kind of stopped myself and I was like, well, wait. Like, what if they don't send me anything? How am I going to feel? Am I going to be disappointed in them because they didn't send me money for my birthday? Like, what am I doing right now? And so I got the envelope. It was a big envelope and, you know, it's thick. And I'm like, okay, like, here we go. Right. And so I opened the first card and it was from my mom. And like, it was probably the best card she's ever given me in my life as far as like sentiment. It was one of those where it was like, even though we fought, I hope you know I loved you. Like one of those kind of cards. Right. Yeah. And so I loved that. And then I opened my dad's, same thing. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I love it. And then I looked at the check and it was $200. And so what I'm trying to say in all of that is that they gave me exactly what I wanted emotionally. And I was like, okay, weird. I took it not as a slap in the face, but kind of disrespectful, because we all know $200 isn't affecting my life even minutely at this point. Just the way she worded it and kind of went about the pre-hype about what it was, I went to Little Drew and instantly got the, oh, she's buying my love. Great. She does love me. This is my birthday. Like, awesome. And then when I got through the last card, I really sat like for a couple of minutes and thought about one, where I was at and where I was feeling and what I was feeling. And I kind of came to the conclusion that the cards meant more than any amount of money they could ever even like possibly give me. They've helped me so much in my life. Like, they've helped me so much that it's not even, I'm very appreciative. That thought process of, okay, this is $200. Like, really? I actually gave it to a homeboy because he needed it and I didn't necessarily right now. And so I was able to bless somebody who really needed that money when I didn't. And so I guess what I'm trying to say with all of that was that me coming into my own over the last couple of days, I'm very appreciative for the family I do have. I think I've overlooked that a lot in the last couple of years, not by like forgetting about them or anything, but kind of like dwelling on it. And now I'm really excited to have the family I have. And, you know, a lot of people kind of miss my birthday this year, which happens every year. My birthday sucks every year. And, you know, so like the people that did reach out and did hit me up, like it meant a lot more to me because I was really appreciative of that. My mom did and my dad did. And I had so much good around me that like the little pieces where I was like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. It wasn't like a detrimental, let me sit in my room and cry on my birthday. And
I mean, you're a gift giver for sure. You enjoy that. You like that. I think we've fine-tuned like, oh, right, I'm not trying to buy their love. And we talked a long time ago about giving somebody a card. And you were like, well, yeah, it's funny you should say that because that's one of my favorite things to get, right? It's the sentiment and the emotion. And that's, you know, the love language that's very high for you. I think for you, those are the things that matter. Yeah. And a card is a reflection of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a crazy, weird birthday because I felt okay throughout all of it, but it was really shitty. Like, it was shitty. Holidays and birthdays, man, just not for me.
Well, they haven't historically been. It doesn't mean it always will be that way.
Because I buy my own stuff, like my own gifts too. So my love language to myself is buying myself some shit. I think that's also why I never really expect anything from anybody as far as gifts, because I always buy it for myself.
Yeah, I'm similar, but the gift receiving for me is like zero.
Kind of hate it.
Right, same. As soon as people go like, well, what do you want? I'm like, well, no. And I think about it and I come up with it. I'll just go and buy it for myself.
Yeah, right.
And when people are like, right, like, I'll give gifts to myself. I'll receive from myself, no problem.
No problem.
Right. And it's when people go, oh man, well, can I at least send you like $100 or a gift certificate? I'm like, I say the same thing and I mean it every time, which is what essentially you did. I'm like, why don't you take that $200 and go have like a dinner you wouldn't normally have and take a picture of yourself having fun at the dinner and send me the picture.
Yeah, I like that.
And I believe that. And that's essentially what you did with the $200. I'm going to do an act of service for someone else. I don't necessarily know that you need or want to do this, but saying like, love the cards. It really hit the heart. Like that was awesome. And yeah, thanks for the money. I actually was able to help out a friend of mine and pay it forward because I really am into acts of service and it was really great. So you made that possible and that meant so much.
Yeah.
Don't need to say that. I'm just kind of highlighting like what it was for you. It was like, it was full. It was a complete package that you got from them.
Yeah, because I don't feel like I was missing anything. I think that was a good mile marker going into my own out of bounds, kind of like getting now into my own pathway of where I'm going. Because that was the send-off I needed to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's the best sentiment you could have gotten from them. I like as you said, the self-confidence, what you're feeling and you're seeing it around you. And that little Drew looks littler and littler, as you grow. Doesn't mean he won't come back. Like you said, I went into little Drew, like, yeah. And we see it and we recognize it and that's okay. We can do that. We can be that sometimes. Overall, the growth is just amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just starting to grow too. Like I'm just starting to grow.
You are growing and you're taking it out for a spin now. Mm-hmm. That was going to see old girlfriend was let me take this grown version of me, this confident version of me that doesn't need this or this.
Right.
And let me see what that looks like over here. Oh, cool. Yeah, that does look cool. Okay, let me do it over here. Oh, cool. These are the new trails that we carved.
Yeah.
And now you get to the top of the lift and it's not just out of bounds. We've moved some boulders and trees and you go, right, there's the trail. Oh, and there's new fresh powder. Awesome. Let's go. Let's carve.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I like it. Look at that smile on your face. It's like you're embracing this leg of your life right now.
Fully. Yeah. In every way possible, I think.
Yeah. I love it. Well, you're 26 now. You're kind of an adult.
Kind of an adult now, dude. Fuck.
Oh, man. And we are back. Welcome back, Bonnie.
Great session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. He has changed and grown. He is so much more confident and self-assured than the last time I heard him.
Really? Interesting.
Oh, fully, completely. The theme that I kind of got from the session, or what he's really realizing internally and able to share with you, is that he's in charge of his okayness. Like he's finally in the driver's seat. He's driving the car of his so-called life. He's like, this is my life. When something happens, I don't jump right to checking in with other people or going to external sources for comfort. I'm sitting with myself. I'm checking in with myself first to see how I feel. And then I'm being more discerning about who I involve in comfort, support, decision-making. It's so cool when you start to see a client who maybe has a lot of external resource start to really tap in and increase internal resource.
Absolutely. Good pull. Because that was one of my notes was, wow, he's seeing things externally, but making change internally and still recognizing it's a bit of both. And just to kind of stick with that idea of growth, which you mentioned, you heard the last Drew episode you did was about 3 months before this one.
Okay.
in session time. So
Okay.
3 months of therapy
That's
have
helpful.
gone by since you've heard him. And it is really cool because he was equating something that he was noticing, just out in the world. And I kind of brought him back to like, well, can you apply it? I think what you're saying applies to work, applies to this. And
Yes.
it did. It was hitting each one of those places. Right.
Right.
And I think since you last heard, he has a girlfriend.
Okay.
And we are just a few weeks out, maybe 2 months out from learning that she cheated on him.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So they separated.
Okay.
And they're on a break and they're kind of figuring things out. And what he's been walking through the last couple of weeks was like, I don't want to do what I normally do in these situations, which is just throw up the wall, cut them out, and be done with it. And I'm not going to do I'm just okay with it, or I avoid it, or ignore it, or I fawn and think it's about me and try to make the situation better.
Right.
I'm just going to go, hey, I'm not going to repeat my pattern, either one of those extremes, either one of those ways. I'm just going to see who shows up here and what I want here.
The amount of ego strength and just like self-love it takes to not go to one of those extremes is huge, because those extremes of I'm going to cut you off, walk away, that's self-protection. This is too painful. I can't deal. Bye. And then the other extreme is I'm just going to maybe avoid, compartmentalize, accommodate, maybe exist in an area of maybe some self-disrespect. He's able to step back. And I noticed this in so many different parts of this session. Like, I'm going to sit back. I think he said, normally I would turn to my mom, but I'm going to turn to myself first and think about like, will my needs get met with her? Is there someone else I need to turn to? But I really just sat with myself. Like he's no longer reacting. He's responding. And in order to respond, he's tapping in and going, okay, let me just feel this out. Let this be a different experience from what I'm used to, which, as you're saying, might be to go to extremes. And he's trusting himself to be able to do that. Right.
Which is amazing. And it's trusting himself that he doesn't have to get it right now. He's going to just be along for that experience. And it's so incredible to me. He also throws back a lot of the metaphors and analogies we've used earlier.
Yes.
To show that he's learning. I don't know if you've heard me. I think you've heard me say this one, but he even said, yeah, I feel like, not I think I am, but I'm getting the sense that I really feel like I'm the lead role in my movie. Like I'm not just playing a supporting actor. Because we've talked about seeing different people's perspectives and them having different one than yours is okay because everybody is the lead actor in their own movie.
Right.
And he's like, oh, right. Even being a supporting actor, I hear that and think, okay, but are you still supporting them or are you living your own?
Right.
And he is, at least in this session, talking about really living his own, doing it and building that ego strength that you're talking about.
I think he said, I'm experiencing the life that I want it to be. And he referenced, I'm a lead role in my movie. He kept referencing the solo act.
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting because he talked about in the past, he didn't want to be the best or the worst. So he'd kind of disappear in a group setting.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting and a lot of really self-awareness to be able to notice what that was about. And now he's like, no, I'm the solo act. I've got myself. That's enough. I trust myself. I don't need to live in extremes, right or wrongs. I'm just going to explore and let the self-trust be the anchor to be able to explore and experience. Fall,
absolutely,
get back up.
And previously for him, it was, I'm so dependent on parents. So if I was that kid that fell and scraped my knee, I need them to make it okay. And even if I fall and scrape my knee and it looks like they're shocked and they don't know what to do, I'll suck it up and make it okay so that it doesn't put them out.
Wow.
And hearing that last week, he was talking about being in the solo dolo, which I thought was just like a hip way of saying it. I had to like look that up. Like, oh wait, that people do say that, being in the solo dolo. That's a thing.
Solo dolo. Okay.
Right.
I'm going to drop that in with the client. Maybe they'll think I'm cool. Just kidding. They don't think I'm cool. Not one of them.
No, I think you're cool by not knowing what is cool.
Okay. That's a nice way to put it.
Right.
Solo dolo.
But he was saying, like, I love that he did it this way. He said, yeah, it makes me think about elementary school. Like, whoa, okay, great. Because that tells me he's looking historically at his patterns and he's able to see that now, which is awesome. And we're like nearly 2 years into his therapy. So for him to be pulling this stuff is great. And that's where he said the thing about safety in numbers.
Right.
And that's sort of what you're talking about disappearing, being, not the best, not the worst, somewhere in the middle. So I'm anonymous. So I'm left alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that idea of safety in numbers is, well, if we fail, we all fail together. We've got that group safety.
Right. It's not on me.
Right. It's not the focus is not on me at all. And it's something I've heard from a lot of clients, a lot of people. One of my clients, I think last year, reminded me of the myth of Icarus. I don't know if you know this one, but classically we think of that as his dad made these wings and said, don't fly too close to the sun because it'll melt the wax and you'll plummet. Right.
Right.
Also said, don't fly too low because the salt from the seawater will get in there, muck it up, and you'll also plummet. So the real myth of Icarus is don't fly too high or don't fly too low.
Right. You're not safe either way. Right.
Right. Right. And that's sort of what you're noticing that he was talking about and what he's now, I think, working against, because he's building that ego strength and, man, can we say it this way? Some confidence is coming out.
Oh, for sure. But I think it's the idea that, yeah, I can fall and get hurt and I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right. I really liked when he was talking about, he was walking into lunch. Was this with the ex?
Not the current. This is an ex-girlfriend from over a year ago.
Okay. Two things I loved about that. I love how he was talking about, I'm doing it for myself. This is a self-test. Now, it's not to say that we always are existing in self-test, but he's like, I think I can handle this. There's a couple of things that would be nice. Like, I do miss her, want to see how she's doing, but I'm experiencing myself in a different way. And this could be a place where old triggers come up, but also maybe I get to experience myself showing up with this person from my past in a different way.
Right.
And I like when he pushed back with you, because what he was saying was that walking into the lunch with his ex really wasn't for her. It wasn't for her to see his growth. It was for him to experience his own growth. And my thought was, his ability to push back with you and say, no, that's not actually what it was about for me. This is what it's about, is his growth.
Yeah.
When an accommodator or a caretaker stops accommodating or caretaking me as a therapist in session, that's gold.
Right.
Like, maybe they even get upset with me or say, no, that's not what I meant, because we're going to be off sometimes. We're not psychic. We don't know exactly what's happening. When someone like that can actually say, actually, this was what I was feeling, or this was my experience. It's like, yes, they're growing and they feel safe with me to say no.
Exactly. And it's something, oh man, when clients don't want to disagree with their therapist and they think, oh, well, I guess that is the way I feel. Okay. I didn't know that before. No, to be able to say, wait, no, you actually got it wrong. It's this. That's awesome. I, as a therapist, love hearing that. And one of the things I was taught when I was training as a younger therapist, because I'm still pretty young. I look young anyway.
You're so young.
Right?
So young. You're in your college dorm right now, right?
Totally. That's why you see the posters of Bon Jovi in the background.
Right. Totally.
Cardi B.
You mean...
So him walking through, like, wait, no, that's not what it is. Not a big deal to him in the moment. To me as the therapist, I even said it to him. Oh, I love when you push back.
Yes.
To kind of like invite that and give permission to do that.
Yes.
When clients don't think they can do that, or when therapists think, oh no, I need to get it right or do this. There's actually a technique I remember learning as a young therapist, which was you can say to, and this is teenage clients that haven't developed an emotional vocabulary, you can say, wow, you're really angry about that right now.
Right.
And I think you might have called this out on an episode, like when I named his feeling for him. And it's a technique where you do it because if you got it right, they'll go, yeah, I am really angry because this, great. And they can go with it. If they're not, they can go, no, it's not anger. I was really just disappointed. Right. Great. Yes. And we're looking for that. Sometimes, at least me, I can't speak for all therapists, but we'll float things and I'm looking for the pushback. I'm looking for a correction if it's there. I'm not going to say something purposefully wrong. Like, oh, you seem like you find that really funny. Like, no, I'm not laughing. What are you talking about? Like, not that.
Right. I think maybe when we talk about like newer therapists or green therapists or therapists who don't have a lot of experience might try to never quote unquote what they're saying as fail in that way. I think that we know we're going to say things and be wrong. And as you said, so at least how I think of it is so much of change comes from the healing dynamic, the healing safe relationship between us and our clients. We might be the first person they can say no to or correct. And because we welcome it, we don't take it personally. We might, as you did, I loved it. You encouraged him, do this more. I love this. Then maybe he can, outside of his life and his other relationships, be able to say, you know what, Mom, that's not actually how I'm feeling. Yeah. And he can take more ownership of his experience, but sometimes it does start in the safety of the therapeutic relationship to be able to do that.
Absolutely. That's why, you and I sang, and you and I together have said this, that a lot of what can be healing is the relationship itself.
Yeah.
It's not about giving something of value to a client every time and finding that value moment, that value add, and, oh, there, I did it. So now I can charge them and now I can take their money because I gave them that one thing. Nope. And you're shaking your head because it's what we're talking about is having the kind of relationship where a client can go, no, that's not really it. It's more this. Gives them that experience in this safe place and the familiarity of doing that. And something that we talked about, I think on the Sarah episode that we broke down when she said, oh, this is fluky. I just did this one time. It's a fluke. Like, no, you're creating a new neural pathway. You just gave yourself a different experience. That's what we just did when Drew said that and said, oh, wow. Yeah. I love when you push back. It's now creating that pathway for him where he can do it and being able to do it with work, with mom. Absolutely. And I'm assuming you saw it too. You heard it too. That's where he was seeing his boundaries, not just in the ex-girlfriend that he had lunch with, but he's seeing it in these other places too.
Yeah, it's in all of them.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there are a couple, I'm thinking of the very first episode I listened to, and I don't know if I was on the podcast or maybe it was just like, oh, I want to get to know Drew. But I remember he cared so deeply about, I think it was reactions to his Christmas presents. Was it t-shirts he was making?
Well, he made personalized sweatshirts for them. It was
sweatshirts.
Because we called that episode "Bake My Shit with Love."
Yes.
It was like, I don't want the store-bought cookies. I want to bake my shit with love.
Right.
Like I want to give something of myself. And you're right, because he did talk about the cards are so meaningful. We had that moment in that episode about cards are so meaningful to me.
And he brings up cards again. There are so many full circles. Right? I was like, what? This is awesome how that happens. Like, the Christmas presents, the sweatshirts, like that was a thing for him. He was so worried about that. Now he's like, I think they're cool. I don't even think that would be a thing. But he brings up his like of cards again in this session.
Yep.
He loves them because they're sentimental. And he has these old trust issues that he talks about. What if they don't send me anything? And he has a brother.
Yeah, he has a brother. Okay. And that's, I'm going to put a major pin in this with him.
Okay.
I don't think it's that I didn't catch it here, because I think you're going to hit something in a second. Okay. That's huge. Even though we're seeing so much progress in him, there's something about this huge. But go ahead.
Okay.
No pressure on you to hit it.
Oh, no. I actually have no clue what you're talking about, but we will see. So he's talking about old trust issues, and it's coming up for him again. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just listening to this session, piecing it all together. it sounds like in the past, maybe his brother has gotten a big financial gift for graduation or something big happens and they're like,
right,
congratulations, here's a big amount of money.
Yep,
or an amount
absolutely.
of money that feels big for him.
Yep.
So then something big happens for Drew and his old triggers of what if I'm disappointed? What if they don't send me anything? But I have this hope that maybe they will. That would be really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sorting through little Drew, old feelings, current feelings. And so he says that the first card was the best card. I think it was from Mom.
Right.
But it was sentimental and expressive. And he felt great. Like this is, again, the second episode he's talked about that these words, that these sentimental notions are really meaningful for him.
Mm-hmm.
And his parents in this particular moment gave him what he wanted emotionally.
Right.
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 And then he opens a second card and he's disappointed based on, I think Mom kind of alluded to, you're going to be excited about this. There was this hype.
Right.
So he assumed it would be larger than the 200 that he received, and also was considering, I think she's given more money to my brother. And he said that triggered little Drew.
Right.
So he started to panic. He started to feel a bunch of things. I was thinking about, what does the myth of meaning? I think about, like, what does this mean to him? What does the $200 mean to him? Little Drew might say, I'm second best. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy.
Right.
And then he was able to tap into Drew now that's been doing this work with you for the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when he really sat with it, he was like, no, they actually do love me. The myth of meaning around the 200 is old, is wrong. They love me. I got that in the sentimental card, which is actually more important to me than the money. So he kind of readjusted how he was thinking and feeling about that.
Right.
And he found himself in this beautiful place of gratitude. Around it.
Yeah. And he's making new meaning out of something. And I love, I love some of your sayings, Bonnie. I really do. That myth of meaning. You know, that's what we're talking about this narrative or the story that we come up with. And the conclusions we can jump to. And the pin that I'm putting in, you pretty much hit it, was there is something that we do need to acknowledge at some point about the disappointment.
Yeah.
Some inequity between me and brother, what brother has gotten and what I don't get.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know if in the months since recording this session, if we've actually hit that or not. I'll have to go through. So
is that something you've kind of, I know you say put a pin in it. I always have these mental post notes of like, now's not the time, or maybe the session's running out, or I'm just going to wait for this. It's kind of there and you'll know when to peel it off and address it. Or as I say, find the therapeutic window to jump through. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. This wasn't that, or I missed it. I do miss things. It does happen, you know, maybe once or twice every 3-4 years. Oh, sorry. I meant 3-4 hours. You know, it does happen. I do miss things. And this is something that hearing it back, go, oh, wait, there's something else there. But what you were talking about, what we were picking up and what we focused on is it was the sentiment that he was looking for and that he could connect to and still feel loved. And still have that feeling from them and still feel seen. And it's, I mean, he said it was the best card ever. He has something that's less about parents and more about, like, compared to brother, I never got what he got in terms of, you know, coming into my own. I think that has less to do with parents and more to do with him. And he is actually doing that now. But he has been historically looking for someone, not something, but someone externally to mark that. Whether it's a parent, a friend, a mentor, a girlfriend, he's looking for something to kind of give him permission to be himself. Which is exactly why when he went on this lunch date, it was important for him to say to you, no, because if it were for her to see my growth, it would be me looking for more, maybe for her to get back with me. And it really wasn't that. So cool. Yeah. That is so cool. I love it. And it's, you know, something that he and I talked about way early on about showing up authentically when he was thinking, well, what do I have to offer? Like, you know, he was doing some fashion stuff and seeing some celebrities And he's like, yeah, some of them like me. They like talking to me. Like, I need to give them something. And even one of his good friends has like more clothes and shoes than you could ever want. Like, he just gets the stuff all the time. And Drew thinking like, oh, I have to get him something. I have to give him something of value. Well, maybe the value is you just being you authentically.
Right.
And he's doing that. He's really becoming that and practicing that. And it's such a cool thing. And we're seeing, you alluded to it, but we're actively seeing his self-talk go from that external to internal. And I think I even mentioned that, like I said something to him about that. And he goes, yeah, well, a little of both. You know?
Well, this is clear. Again, the confidence is definitely noticeable for me listening to very first sessions and now stepping in later. He's confident, and he also just has a new way of talking. I noticed him use my favorite word, and right. Yep. You and I use that word all the time. I can feel this, and I can still be, I think he said, better with communicating his emotions and setting boundaries. Like I think you've lended him, and we do this as therapists. Like, we lend ego strength.
Well said. Say a little more about that.
I mean, sometimes when I'm sitting with somebody, let's say you're my client, Doug.
Okay.
And I talk about this with my associates, the therapists I supervise in my practice. Sometimes we see somebody's growth, or we see the possibility when they can't, and we're lending ego strength. We're able to kind of say, Doug, I can see that that's possible for you.
Right.
Right. Sometimes it's just shifting language around it. Like, no, actually, I think you're not giving yourself enough credit here. There's many ways that we can genuinely lend ego strength to a client. Maybe they didn't have that, and then they internalize it.
Right. And just think that they don't, or it's been reinforced that they don't, or it just hasn't been enforced or reinforced that they do. And what we do often, I think, is we kind of put on their shoes and walk around in their life with them.
Yes.
Not for them, but with them. So with their shoes on, I'm going to model what it's like to have ego strength in a particular situation. Then I'm going to take the shoes off, go sit over there, and they can put those shoes back on their feet and walk around in that.
Right. Well, he's got a nice, well-constructed, shiny pair of shoes.
Right.
Truly. I can hear it again, how he pushed back it with you in a very non-defensive way. Just actually, I think this is how I feel. It's like a new Drew from my perspective.
It is. And a moment that I loved in the session that hits exactly what you're saying. He also recognizes it, because he was saying, I think he was going to current girlfriend's place to pick up like some stuff and wasn't sure how that was going to go.
He brought his wingman.
Absolutely. And we kind of like alluded to like, yeah, there's a version of you, and we probably called it the little Drew version, but it's probably the version from like, I would say a year ago, he might say 6 months ago. He'd be like, shoot, 3 months ago. That wouldn't have gone down there. That would have brought her box of stuff to her and gave her a hug and done all this and done that. And as I'm saying that, I was like, so when you think about that version of you, what would you say to that version? And he just went, shit, go to therapy. Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And true.
Yeah.
And it's really what I think is cool. That's a great ad for therapy. It's also a great testament to him saying, I've made a lot of progress in therapy and done a lot of work, and I'm different now than I was before.
Yes. It's so cool when even, clients can say the old version of me, or even 2 months ago, I would have handled and felt this experience much differently.
Yeah. I am thrilled that we got to do this, even though we're not in person. Maybe we will be the next time we do this.
I hope so.
Which could be another 3 months, or it could be 3 weeks. Could be tomorrow. We do it tomorrow.
3 years. No. Listen, this was lovely, but I want to say this was lovely with you, but listening to Drew was also really cool. It's just really, it's we don't get to, you do with this podcast. I don't get to listen back on sessions. I can hear them in my head, but it's cool to not be the therapist and remember session 1 and references that were still pulled out 2 years later, and just feel just a different person with the same sense of humor, which I love about him, showing up. So thanks for letting me listen.
You're very welcome.
Doug and Drew.
Yeah. And you, all of you out there in listener land, thanks for sticking with the Patreon. We'll throw another one out at you next week. And I keep threatening to have Meredith back on. She has gotten her new house. She is almost done moving, I think. I don't know if she's done moving, but she's almost ready to like go, okay, now I can listen to a session. Now I can do this. And I appreciate your time, Bonnie, for listening and doing this.
Of course.
And I will, talk to you again in a few minutes.
Bye.
Bye, guys.